The champagne flute shattered against
Hey
the
there!
marble
I've
floor of
lost
the Ikoyi
everything!
penthouse,
I'm
sending
homeless!
crystal shards
I'm
skating
dying!
across the room like frozen tears. Chukwuemeka Okafor stood in the doorway of what used to be his bedroom, his expensive Italian shoes crunching over broken glass, staring at the scene before him, his wife Adana wrapped in silk sheets with a man he'd never seen before, both frozen in shock at his sudden appearance. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. Chukwu? Adana's voice cracked, her smooth dark skin going ashen. She clutched the sheets to her chest, her long braids tumbling over her shoulders. You're supposed to be in London. The flight? Changed my plans, Chukwuemeka said, his voice deadly calm despite the inferno raging in his chest. The man beside her, younger, lighter-skinned, wearing an expensive watch Chukwuemeka recognized as one he'd bought Adana last Christmas, scrambled to gather his clothes. Don't bother rushing, brother. Take your time. Seems you've been comfortable in my home for a while now. The stranger, hands shaking, pulled on his trousers and bolted past Chukwuemeka without a word, leaving only the scent of expensive cologne and domestic betrayal hanging in the air. Adana sat up, tears streaming down her face, but Chukwuemeka felt nothing. 12 years. 12 years he'd spent building his tech empire in London, sending money home every month, calling every night, missing his children's birthdays and school plays, all while believing he was securing their future. How long? He asked, his voice like gravel. Chukwu, please, let me explain. How long? His roar echoed through the penthouse, and somewhere in the house, he heard movement. His children. God, his children were home. 3 years, Adana whispered, and the admission hit him like a physical blow. 3 years of infidelity in marriage. 3 years of lies. 3 years of video calls where she'd smiled and told him she loved him while another man warmed his bed. Before he could respond, his daughter Chukwuemeka appeared in the doorway, 16 years old and beautiful, her mother. 3 days later, Chukwuemeka stood outside the gleaming Eco-Atlantic City office building where his wife worked as a marketing executive, dressed in clothes he'd bought from a second-hand market in Mushin. The expensive suit was gone, replaced with worn jeans, a faded Arsenal jersey, and dirty sneakers. His usually neat beard was unkempt, and he'd rubbed dirt on his face and clothes. He looked exactly like the homeless men who sometimes slept in the parking structures downtown, forgotten, invisible, desperate. If your spouse betrayed you, would you seek revenge or walk away? Hit that subscribe button and comment where you're tuning in from. The plan was simple but brutal. Adana had frozen his access to their joint accounts, she'd moved fast, probably with advice from that man he'd found her with. She'd also filed a restraining order claiming he'd threatened her, which was laughable given he'd simply walked out. But she didn't know about his offshore accounts, his London assets, or the fact that he controlled the company that employed her. She thought she'd won because she'd locked him out of the penthouse and turned his children against him with lies about his absence. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Please, madam, just small change for food, Chukwuemeka called out, his voice deliberately rough, as Adana emerged from the building with 2 of her colleagues, women he recognized from family photos she'd posted online. They were laughing, designer handbags swinging from their arms, perfectly done makeup gleaming in the Lagos afternoon sun. His wife looked radiant, unburdened, as if she hadn't just destroyed a 12-year. He sent a quick reply, thank you. Keep sending anything you see. There's a reward in it for you. Tomorrow, phase 2 of his plan would begin. Tomorrow, he'd attend the children's school assembly, the one Adana had told Chukwuemeka he wouldn't attend because he was supposedly in London. He'd show up and let his children see that their father hadn't abandoned them. Let Adana explain to everyone why she'd lied. The emotional manipulation ended now. The power plays ended now. From tomorrow, Adana would learn what it meant to betray Chukwuemeka Okafor. He just hoped his heart would survive the war he was about to wage. Comment your thoughts on Adana's behavior. Do you think Chukwuemeka's revenge is justified? Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next chapter. The assembly hall at Green Heights International School buzzed with wealthy parents in their finest, women in designer wrappers and gellies, men in perfectly tailored agbatas and suits. Chukwuemeka sat in the back row wearing a simple but clean outfit, a far cry from the homeless disguise but equally unremarkable. He wanted to observe before making his presence known. This was one of Lagos's most exclusive schools, where fees ran into millions of naira per term, fees he'd been paying faithfully from London while building his empire. Have you ever exposed a cheating spouse in public? Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. On stage, Chukwuemeka stood with other students receiving awards for academic excellence. She looked beautiful in her school uniform, so much like her mother but with his eyes, intelligent, watchful. She searched the crowd during her speech about perseverance and family support, clearly hoping to see him despite believing her mother's lies about him being abroad. Beside him, a woman in expensive lace leaned toward her friend. "That's Adana Okafor's daughter. Beautiful girl. Such a shame about the situation." "What situation?" her friend whispered back. "You didn't hear? The husband abandoned them. Been living in London for years, barely sends money home. Adana's been struggling to keep up appearances. My husband plays golf with her new man, Tabena Okeke. Very successful real estate developer. Much better match for her." Chukwuemeka's jaw clenched. So Adana had been spreading lies, painting herself as the victim of an absent, uncaring husband. The emotional manipulation extended beyond their home into their social circles. She'd poisoned his reputation while spending his money and sleeping with another man. "I heard she's filing for divorce," the first woman continued. "Taking everything. The house, the cars, full custody. The man doesn't even visit his own children." "Some men are useless," her friend agreed. "Just sperm donors." The rage that swept through Chukwuemeka was white-hot. He stood abruptly, drawing annoyed glances from those around him. Mrs. Adeola looked alarmed, clearly uncertain whether to intervene. The other parents were riveted, phones out, undoubtedly recording every moment. This was the kind of domestic betrayal drama that would dominate Lagos social media for weeks. "I'm not here to air all our dirty laundry," Chukwuemeka continued, though he'd already said enough to plant seeds of doubt about Adana's victim narrative. "I'm here to tell my children, publicly, that I love them. That I've always loved them. That every day abroad was torture because I missed them. And that from now on, I'll be here. Present. Active. Fighting for them." He looked directly at Adana. "Fighting for what's rightfully theirs." The assembly ended in chaos. Parents rushed to talk to him, to introduce themselves, to apologize for believing rumors. Business cards were exchanged, invitations extended. Chukwuemeka played the role perfectly, gracious, humble, the wronged husband taking the high road. But as he left with his children, he saw Tabena arguing with Adana in the parking lot, saw her crying, saw the relationship already fracturing under the weight of truth. Good. Let her lose him too. Let her understand what she'd thrown away. In the car, a rented Toyota, nothing flashy, Chukwuemeka turned to him. "Papa, why did Mama lie about you?" How did he explain adult betrayal to a teenager? How did he tell his daughter that her mother had chosen lust and convenience over loyalty and truth? "Sometimes, baby girl, people make mistakes. Big mistakes. Your mother and I have some things to work out." "She's been bringing Uncle Tabena to the house," Obinna said quietly from the back seat. "He sleeps in your room now. In your bed." The pain in his son's voice cut deep. These children had been damaged by their mother's infidelity, forced to witness things no child should see, and Chukwuemeka's absence, however necessary, had left them vulnerable to that damage. "That ends today," he promised. "I'm getting you both out of there. We'll stay in a hotel until I sort out proper accommodations." His phone rang. "Marcus, from London. Bruv, the acquisition went through." The notification came at exactly 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Chukwuemeka was having breakfast with his children in their new serviced apartment in Victoria Island when his phone pinged with a news alert: major restructuring at Premier Marketing Solutions, dozens laid off including top executives. "Would you fire your cheating spouse? Let us know in the comments and tell us where you're watching from." He clicked through to read the full article, keeping his face neutral as Chukwuemeka and Obinna ate their pancakes. The journalist had done a thorough job, detailing the surprise acquisition by a London-based investment firm, the immediate restructuring, and the list of terminated employees. Adana's name was mentioned specifically. Marketing Director Adana Okafor, who had been with the company for 8 years, was among the executives let go. Sources say the decision came without warning, with affected employees being escorted from the building within hours. The article included a photo of Adana leaving the office, security guard at her elbow, carrying a box of her belongings. She looked devastated, mascara running down her face, the confident woman from days ago utterly shattered. For a moment, Chukwuemeka felt a twinge of guilt. Then he remembered her face when she tried to hit him while he pretended to be homeless, her contempt for someone she believed had nothing, and the guilt evaporated. "Papa, is Mama okay?" Obinna asked, looking up from his phone. "She's been calling me all morning, but you said not to answer." "Your mother is learning important lessons," Chukwuemeka said carefully. "Sometimes we have to face consequences for our actions." Chukwuemeka set down her fork. "You did this, didn't you? You got her fired." His daughter was too sharp for her own good. She had his mind for business, his ability to see connections others missed. "I'm protecting this family's interests," he said, which wasn't quite an admission but wasn't a denial either. "Good," Chukwuemeka said coldly, and the hardness in her young voice worried him. She'd seen too much, been hurt too deeply by her mother's betrayal. She deserves it. She lied to us for years, Papa. She made us think you didn't care about us. She brought strange men around us. She used your money to buy things for Uncle Tabena. I saw the receipts. Chukwuemeka's eyes sharpened. What receipts? In her bedroom. Designer clothes, watches, cologne. All charged to your credit card. I didn't understand then, but I do now. She was spending your money on her boyfriend while telling everyone you weren't supporting us. The financial manipulation was worse than he'd thought. This wasn't just infidelity in marriage, this was theft, fraud, a complete betrayal of trust on every level. Solomon, the private investigator, had been right. The evidence he'd been gathering showed a pattern of Adana diverting funds Chukwuemeka sent for household I'm taking what's mine, Chukwuemeka corrected. The children, who you manipulated. The money, which you stole. The respect, which you tried to tarnish. As for destroying you? Adana, you did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone sees the truth. Please, she tried one more time. For the children. They need their mother. Don't take them from me. The children need a parent they can trust. You've proven that's not you. My lawyer will be in touch about custody arrangements. You can see them on weekends, supervised, once you've proven you can put their needs above your own. You can't do this. Watch me. I have evidence of your infidelity, your financial theft, your parental manipulation. I have witnesses who saw you try to strike a homeless man, me. I have documentation of every naira I sent home and exactly where it went. I have your boyfriend's receipts, courtesy of our daughter's sharp eyes. Tell me, Adana, what do you have? The sound of her crying was the only answer. After a moment, he heard male voices in the background, her brothers, perhaps, or her father. Her family, coming to pick up the pieces. Goodbye, Adana. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce proceedings. He hung up before she could respond. The apartment was silent except for the sound of morning traffic outside. Chukwuemeka and Obinna stared at him, processing what they'd just heard. Papa, Obinna ventured, was that too harsh? Was it? Chukwuemeka examined his conscience, looking for remorse and finding only a cold satisfaction. Your mother made adult choices. She gets adult consequences. Would you have me reward her betrayal with kindness? Forgive her for using you both as weapons against me? No, Chukwuemeka said firmly. She made her choice. We're making ours. We choose you. His phone buzzed with a text from Solomon, following up on your request. Found something interesting. Tabena Okeke isn't who he claims to be. He's actually married with 2 kids in Abuja. Wife has no idea about Adana. Thought you shall. Retrio. Continue. No. Full report coming. Chukwuemeka stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping him. So Adana's great love affair, the relationship she destroyed their marriage for, had been built on lies too. Tabena had been using her just as thoroughly as she'd been using Chukwuemeka's money. The irony was almost poetic. What is it, Papa? Chukwuemeka asked, noticing his expression. Nothing, baby girl. Just karma doing its work. But as he looked at his children, their trust in him rebuilding, their faith in their mother shattered, he wondered if this revenge would. His phone buzzed one more time. A message from an unknown number with a video attachment. The preview showed Adana's front gate, his front gate, technically, since the house was in his name. Curious and wary, he opened it. The video showed a group of men, 6 of them, including 2 he recognized as Adana's brothers, forcing their way through the gate, shouting threats. The timestamp was from 20 minutes ago. You think you can disgrace our sister and get away with it? One brother yelled at the camera, clearly addressing security footage. We're coming for you, Chukwuemeka. You'll pay for what you've done. They'd vandalized the gate, spray-painted crude insults on the walls, and judging by the sounds, had broken windows. Then they'd left, but the message was clear, this was just the beginning. Chukwuemeka's jaw tightened. He'd tried to keep this civil, tried to handle it legally and quietly. But if Adana's family wanted war, he'd give them war. He forwarded the video to his lawyer with a simple message, file criminal charges. All of them. And get me an emergency restraining order. Then he called the security company back. I need protection detail immediately. 2 guards, armed, for me and my children. Start tonight. As he made arrangements, ensuring his children's safety and preparing for the next battle, Chukwuemeka realized that his revenge had consequences he hadn't fully anticipated. He'd wanted to hurt Adana, to make her pay for her betrayal. He'd succeeded. But in doing so, he declared war on her entire family, escalated a private matter into a public spectacle, and put his children in potential danger. Was it worth it? The question haunted him as he locked the apartment door, checked the windows, and tried to reassure his frightened children that everything would be okay. Outside, Lagos glittered with a million lights, indifferent to the domestic dramas playing out in expensive apartments and penthouses. Somewhere in the city, Adana was probably crying, her life in ruins. Somewhere else, her brothers were probably planning their next move, their pride wounded and rage building. And here, in this serviced apartment, Chukwuemeka Okafor, billionaire, betrayed husband, father trying desperately to protect his children, wondered if revenge was ever truly sweet, or if it just left everyone bleeding. The war had begun. And nobody wins in war, they just survive it. Is Chukwuemeka going too far, or is this justified? What would you do if your in-laws came after you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next chapter. Things are about to get even more intense. The police station in Victoria Island smelled of stale coffee and frustration. Chukwuemeka sat across from Inspector Chidi Okonkwo, a heavy-set man with tired eyes who'd seen too many domestic disputes turn violent. Between them lay printouts of the security footage showing Adana's brothers vandalizing the property, along with the threatening messages that had flooded Chukwuemeka's phone overnight. Have you ever had to involve the police in family drama? Tell us your story in the comments and where you're watching from. Mr. Okafor, Inspector Okonkwo said, tapping the papers with a thick finger, I understand you're angry. I understand you want justice. But are you sure you want to press charges? These are your wife's brothers. Your children's uncles. Family matters can usually be resolved. They vandalized my property and issued threats, Chukwuemeka interrupted firmly. This stopped being a family matter when they decided to commit crimes. I want them arrested and charged. The inspector sighed. This will make things worse. You know how these family feuds go in Lagos. Next thing, you'll have cousins and uncles getting involved, maybe even village elders flying in from the east. It becomes a whole production. Then let it be a production. I'm not backing down. What Chukwuemeka didn't tell the inspector was that he'd already received 3 calls from Adana's father, the retired Chief Ike Obi, demanding a meeting to settle this like civilized people. Each call had been more hostile than the last, evolving from requests to thinly veiled threats about consequences and disrespect to elders. His phone buzzed. Marcus, from London, with an update, your ex's boyfriend's wife just found out. She's filing for divorce. Apparently, he's been running the same game on multiple women, using fake success to attract them, then draining their resources. Lagos police have an open file on him for fraud. Thought you'd want to know. Chukwuemeka smiled grimly. So Tabena was a con artist, and Adana had been just another mark. The poetic justice was almost too perfect. His wife had betrayed him for a man who was even more of a liar than she was. Something funny, Mr. Okafor? The inspector asked. Just life's ironies, Inspector. When he arrived at the apartment building, chaos reigned. Adana stood at the security barrier, hair disheveled, makeup running, screaming at the guards. Behind her, phone cameras captured everything. A small crowd had gathered, some sympathetic, others jeering. My babies! Adana wailed. He took my babies. Someone help me. He's keeping them from me. Chukwuemeka approached calmly, despite the rage building inside him. Adana, the children are exactly where they want to be. You need to leave. She whirled on him, and he saw calculation behind the tears. This was performance, strategy. She'd learned from her legal team that emotional manipulation could work in her favor. How can you do this? She sobbed, moving closer, aware of the cameras. They're my children too. You can't just take them. This is kidnapping. They're 16 and 13, old enough to choose where they want to live. And they've chosen. Now please leave before I have security call the police. I'm their mother. Her voice cracked. Chukwuemeka. Obinna. Come down here right now. Mama needs you. From a window above, Chukwuemeka's voice rang out, clear and cold, we don't want to see you, Mama. You lied to us. You lied to everyone. The crowd murmured. This wasn't the narrative Adana had expected. Her face twisted with genuine hurt before smoothing back into calculated anguish. You see, she turned to the cameras. He's turned my own children against me. This is what he does, he destroys anyone who crosses him. He's not the victim here. I am. I'm a mother fighting for her babies. A reporter pushed forward, microphone extended. Mr. Okafor, is it true you've been in London for 12 years? That you were essentially an absent father? I was in London building a business to support my family, Chukwuemeka said evenly. Every month for 12 years, I sent money home. I paid for everything, school, housing, cars, lifestyle. I called every day. I came home whenever work allowed. I did what many Nigerian fathers do, sacrifice time with family to secure their future. But Mrs. Okafor claims you had affairs in London, another reporter pressed. That you abandoned them emotionally if not financially. Mrs. Okafor is lying. As she's been lying about many things. The truth will come out in court. What about her job? A third reporter asked. There are rumors you had her fired as revenge. Chukwuemeka met the camera directly. My wife made choices. She's now living with consequences. That's not revenge, that's accountability. So you admit it? Adana shouted triumphantly. You admit you're punishing me. You're using your money and power to destroy me because I made one mistake. One mistake? Chukwuemeka's control finally snapped. You had a 3-year affair. You spent 43 million naira of family money on your boyfriend. You brought him into our home, around our children. You lied to everyone about me being absent and uncaring. You treated me with contempt when you thought I was homeless and desperate. That's not one mistake, Adana. That's a pattern of betrayal and cruelty. The family meeting was held in a private room at the Sheraton Hotel in Ikeja, neutral ground chosen carefully. On one side of the long conference table sat Chukwuemeka with his mother, Mama Okafor, who'd flown in from Enugu wearing her finest wrapper and geli, her face carved from stone. Beside them sat Ngozi, the lawyer, her briefcase full of evidence and legal ammunition. Would you face your in-laws after this kind of betrayal? Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Across from them sat Adana's family, her father, Chief Ike Obi, a tall man in traditional attire with eyes that could freeze water, her mother, Lolo Obi, weeping quietly into a handkerchief, and her 2 brothers, Chike and Dubum, both looking like they wanted to leap across the table. Her uncle, a wealthy businessman named Ozo Okiri, completed their side, clearly brought in as muscle and money. Between them sat 2 mediators, Pastor Emmanuel Adeyemi from their former church and a family elder, Matsi Aneo, white-haired and grave. Adana herself sat at the end, subdued, dressed modestly, her earlier hysteria replaced by calculated remorse. We are here, Matsi Aneo began, his voice heavy with authority, because 2 families who were once joined are now at war. This is not our way. This is not how Igbo people handle family matters. We resolve, we reconcile, we remember that children are watching. There's nothing to resolve, Chukwuemeka said flatly. I'm here as a courtesy to the elders. But my position hasn't changed. I want a divorce. I want primary custody. I want restitution for stolen funds. These are not negotiable. Chief Obi's face darkened. You dare speak of stolen funds when you abandoned your family for 12 years? When you left my daughter to raise your children alone? When you abandoned? Mama Okafor's voice cut like a blade. My son sent millions every month. He called every day. He came home whenever he could. Your daughter lied about being abandoned while she spent his money on her boyfriend. Mama Okafor, please, Pastor Adeyemi held up a hand. Let us maintain respect. Respect? Mama Okafor stood, her small frame radiating fury. Your daughter brought shame to my family. She broke sacred vows. She brought another man into my son's bed. And now you sit here acting like he is the problem? Your son is destroying her. Lolo Obi wailed. He had her fired. He's keeping her children from her. He's shaming her publicly. What kind of man does this? The kind of man who was betrayed by a woman he trusted. Mama Okafor shot back. The kind of man who discovered his sacrifices meant nothing. My son gave everything to your daughter, and she repaid him with betrayal. Enough. Matsi Aneo's voice boomed through the room. We are here to find peace, not to trade insults. Mama Okafor, please sit. Chief Obi, control your wife. We must discuss this like adults. After a tense silence, everyone sat. Chukwuemeka remained calm, though his heart pounded. This was a performance, a show for the elders to say they'd tried mediation before the court battle intensified. Adana, Pastor Adeyemi said gently, do you want to speak? To explain what happened? Adana dabbed at her eyes, and Chukwuemeka noted how carefully she'd prepared, minimal makeup to look vulnerable, simple dress to appear humble, trembling hands to suggest fragility. She was good at this. I made terrible mistakes, she began, her voice small. Children can be turned against a parent. Ozo Okiri spoke for the first time, his voice smooth and dangerous. Parental alienation is abuse, Mr. Okafor. If you've poisoned your children against their mother, there will be consequences. I didn't need to poison them. Their mother did that herself when she made them accomplices to her lies. When she told them to keep secrets. When she exposed them to her infidelity and manipulation. I'm not the villain here. Neither is she. Lolo Obi insisted. She made mistakes, yes, but she's not evil. She's a woman who was lonely and made poor choices. Don't you have any compassion? Chukwuemeka thought about compassion. About mercy. About the woman crying across from him who'd once been his best friend. About the life they'd planned that would never exist now. I had compassion, he said finally. For 12 years, I had compassion for how lonely she was. I sent extra money. I called more often. I came home whenever possible. I tried to make it work. But compassion without accountability is just enabling bad behavior. And I'm done enabling. So what do you want? Matsi Aneo asked. Truly. What will satisfy you? Chukwuemeka met Adana's eyes. I want my 43 million naira back. I want primary custody with her having supervised weekend visits. I want a public acknowledgement that she lied about me being an absent father. And I want the divorce finalized quickly and quietly. She doesn't have 43 million. Chief Obi exploded. You had her fired. She has nothing. Then she can pay it back over time. Or her family can cover it, since they're so concerned about her welfare. Or it can be deducted from any settlement she might have received. I don't care how it happens, I want my money back. This is extortion. Dubum, one of the brothers, shouted. You're using your wealth to crush her. This is abuse. No, Chukwuemeka said calmly. Abuse is what she did to our marriage. This is justice. There's a difference. The meeting deteriorated from there. Voices raised, accusations flew, threats were made and countered. The mediators tried desperately to find common ground, but there was none. Chukwuemeka had drawn his lines, and he wasn't budging. Finally, Pastor Adeyemi stood. We're getting nowhere. I suggest we adjourn and reconvene when emotions have cooled. No need, Chukwuemeka stood as well. I came here as a courtesy to the elders. I've stated my terms. The rest will be handled in court. Ngozi will send you the formal divorce papers this week. Wait, Adana's voice stopped him at the door. Can I at least see them? The children? Just for a few minutes? Supervised, if you want. I need to see my babies. Chukwuemeka looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the enemy he'd been battling but a broken woman who'd lost everything through her own choices. Part of him wanted to say yes, to show mercy, to remember that she was still human despite her betrayals. But then he thought about Kayamika's face when she'd found those receipts. About Obina's quiet tears when he'd admitted watching strange men come and go. About the years he'd missed because he'd trusted that his sacrifices mattered. You can see them at the court-ordered visitation, he said. With a supervisor present. Like I offered. Those are my terms. Please, she whispered. Chukwu, please. They're all I have left. You should have thought about that before you destroyed what we had, he replied. Actions have consequences, Adana. Even for you. As he left, his mother beside him, Ngozi gathering papers, he heard Adana break down completely, her sobs echoing in the hotel conference room. Her family surrounded her, offering comfort and cursing his name. In the elevator, Mama Okafor squeezed his hand. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? Chukwuemeka asked. Because you're a good man. Good men struggle with necessary cruelty. But sometimes, my son, you have to be cruel to be just. She hurt you. She hurt your children. She needs to face consequences, or she'll never change. The elevator descended, taking them away from the wreckage of two families' hopes. Outside, Lagos sprawled in all directions, indifferent, busy, moving forward while they remained trapped in cycles of betrayal and revenge. Chukwuemeka's 6 months later, the Lagos High Court courtroom was packed with spectators, journalists, and family members on both sides. The custody hearing had become a media sensation. Billionaire versus cheating wife, the battle for 2 children, had been trending for weeks. Chukwuemeka sat at retrial. Continue. The plaintiff's table in a perfectly tailored navy suit, Ngozi beside him reviewing last-minute notes. Across the aisle, Adana sat with her lawyer, thinner than before, her face carefully made up to hide the exhaustion that haunted her eyes. After months of betrayal and revenge, who do you think deserves custody? Comment below and tell us where you're tuning in from. Justice Amaka Obinwosu, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s known for her strict adherence to evidence over emotion, presided over the proceedings. She'd heard countless custody cases, but this one had attracted unusual attention. The amounts of money involved, the public nature of the betrayal, the social media firestorm that had engulfed both parties. We are here, Justice Obinwosu began, her voice cutting through the courtroom murmur, to determine the best interests of 2 children caught in their parents' war. I want to make something clear to both parties. This is not about punishing anyone. This is not about who was more wronged. This is solely about Kayamika and Obina's welfare. Ngozi stood first, her opening statement precise and devastating. She laid out the evidence methodically, the 43 million naira in misappropriated funds, documented proof of Adana's 3-year affair, witness testimony from neighbors and school staff about Tabena's frequent presence in the home, and most damaging of all, testimony from the children themselves about their mother's manipulation and lies. Your Honor, Ngozi concluded, Mrs. Okafor didn't just betray her husband. She betrayed her children's trust. She used family resources meant for their education and welfare to fund an affair with a con artist. She lied to them about their father, poisoning their relationship with him. She exposed them to inappropriate situations with her lover. This is not a woman who put her children's interests first. Mr. Okafor, despite his physical absence, consistently provided for every need, maintained regular contact, and upon discovering the betrayal, immediately prioritized his children's safety and emotional health. Adana's lawyer, Barrister Emeka Nwosu, presented a different narrative. He painted a picture of a lonely woman driven to desperation by an absent husband, a mother who'd raised her children essentially alone for 12 years, who'd made mistakes born of isolation and abandonment. Your Honor, Emeka argued passionately, my client is not perfect. She made errors in judgment. But she is not the monster the petitioner portrays. For 12 years, she was the one who attended every parent-teacher conference. She was the one who nursed sick children through the night. She was the one who helped with homework, attended school plays, celebrated birthdays, all while Mr. Okafor was thousands of miles away pursuing business interests. Yes, she had an affair. Yes, she made financial mistakes. But does that erase 12 years of hands-on mothering? Does that mean she should lose her children entirely? The question hung in the courtroom. Several spectators nodded, sympathetic to this framing. Chukwuemeka felt his confidence waver slightly. Emeka was good, he was making Adana's betrayal seem almost understandable, even forgivable. Then came the witnesses. Solomon Mensah, the private investigator, testified about the evidence he'd gathered, photos of Adana and Tobena at hotels, restaurants, beach resorts, all while Chukwuemeka was in London believing his wife was faithfully waiting. Financial records showing lavish gifts purchased for Tobena using Chukwuemeka's credit cards. Even more damning, testimony from neighbors who'd heard arguments between Adana and Tobena in front of the children. On 3 separate occasions, Solomon testified, neighbors reported hearing Mrs. Okafor and Mr. Okeke having loud disputes in the home while the children were present. One neighbor specifically recalled Chukwuemeka, then 13 years old, being sent out of the house during one of these arguments. Adana's face crumpled, but she maintained composure. Her lawyer cross-examined aggressively, suggesting the investigation was biased, that Solomon had been paid to paint the worst possible picture. But the evidence was too solid, too documented, too consistent. The school counselor testified next. Mrs. Blessing Adiwale, a calm woman in her 50s, spoke about sessions she'd had with both children over the past year. Chukwuemeka came to me initially because of academic stress, Mrs. Adiwale explained. But as we talked, deeper issues emerged. She spoke about confusion at home, about adult situations she didn't understand, about feeling like she had to keep secrets from her father. She never explicitly said her mother was having an affair, but the signs were clear: inappropriate adult behavior around the children, pressure to lie, emotional manipulation. And Obinna? Justice Obinwosu asked. Obinna presented with anxiety and trust issues. He's younger, more confused by the family dynamics. He loves both parents but felt torn between them. He mentioned several times feeling like he couldn't trust what adults told him because everyone lies. The testimony gutted Chukwuemeka. His children had been suffering silently while he'd been in London, oblivious. Yes, Adana had betrayed him, but he'd been absent when they needed him most. The guilt was crushing. Then came the moment everyone had been. Chukwuemeka's composure cracked. Angry. Confused. Ashamed. My friends at school would ask about my father, and I'd repeat what Mama told me, that he was too busy to visit, that he didn't care. Then I found out he was calling every day, sending gifts that Mama hid, planning visits that Mama cancelled. She made me lie to him without knowing I was lying. She made me part of her betrayal. Do you want to live with your father? Yes, ma'am. I want to live with the parent who tells the truth. The parent who sacrifices instead of just talking about sacrifices. Mama sacrificed too, but she also lied, manipulated, and stole. Papa made mistakes, he was gone too long, but he did it for the right reasons. And when he came back and discovered the truth, he could have just left us all. Instead, he fought for us. That's the parent I want. When Obinna testified, younger and more emotional, he echoed his sister's sentiments but added something that broke both parents' hearts. I just want everyone to stop fighting, he said through tears. I want Mama and Papa to be nice to each other. I want to see Mama without everyone being angry. I want Papa to stay in Lagos. I just want to be a kid again, not someone stuck in the middle of grown-up problems. After the testimonies, there was a recess. In the hallway, Chukwuemeka found a quiet corner, overwhelmed by emotion. His children's words had validated his decisions but also highlighted his failures. He'd been so focused on revenge, on making Adana pay, that he'd lost sight of what really mattered, helping his children heal. "Mr. Okafor?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see Adana standing alone, her lawyer having left to make a phone call. For the first time in months, they were face to face without lawyers, mediators, or cameras. "What do you want, Adana?" She looked broken, defeated, nothing like the confident woman he'd married or the cold stranger he'd found in his bed months ago. "To say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not for the courts or the lawyers, just to you. To Chukwuemeka and Obinna. I destroyed everything, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. I know. But I need you to hear it anyway. I was selfish, Chukwu. I was lonely and angry and I made terrible choices. I convinced myself I deserved to Benna, deserved to be happy, deserved to take what I wanted because you weren't there. But the truth is, I was just scared." "Scared of what?" "That you'd realize you didn't need us anymore. That London would become your real home and we'd just be obligations you sent money to. So I pushed you away before you could leave us completely. I sabotaged what we had because I was afraid of losing it anyway. And now I've lost everything." Chukwuemeka studied her face, searching for manipulation and finding only genuine regret. "You didn't trust me. After everything we built, all the years together, you didn't trust that I was coming back." "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Adana said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to understand that hurting you wasn't the goal. I hurt myself trying to protect myself from potential hurt, and I took you and the kids down with me." Before Chukwuemeka could respond, they were called back into the courtroom. Justice Obinwosu had reached her decision. The courtroom fell silent as the judge shuffled papers, preparing to render judgment. Chukwuemeka's heart pounded. Beside him, Ngozi sat perfectly still, confident but tense. Across the aisle, Adana gripped her lawyer's arm, eyes closed, praying silently. "This has been one of the most difficult cases I've presided over," Justice Obinwosu began. "Both parents clearly love their children. Both have made significant sacrifices. Both have also made serious mistakes that have harmed these children." She looked directly at Chukwuemeka. "Mr. Okafor, your financial support has been exemplary. Your commitment to your children's education and welfare is commendable. However, your physical absence during critical developmental years cannot be dismissed. Children need more than money, they need presence. You chose business over birthdays, contracts over Christmas. While your intentions were good, the impact on your children was real." Chukwuemeka's stomach sank. Was she about to rule against him? Then the judge turned to Adana. "Mrs. Okafor, your day-to-day care of these children for 12 years is noted and appreciated. However, your affair, your financial misappropriation, and most critically, your manipulation of your children's perception of their father, constitutes serious parental misconduct. You didn't just betray your husband, you undermined your children's relationship with their father for your own purposes. That is unacceptable." Adana's face went pale. "Therefore, my ruling is as follows," Justice Obinwosu continued. "Primary physical custody is awarded to Mr. Chukwuemeka Okafor, with the children residing with him full-time. Mrs. Adana Okafor is granted visitation every other weekend and 1 weeknight per week, supervised for the first 6 months by a court-appointed guardian to ensure appropriate behavior and conversation." Adana let out a sound between a sob and a gasp. Her lawyer patted her shoulder, murmuring consolations. Furthermore, the judge wasn't finished. "Mrs. Okafor is ordered to repay the misappropriated 43 million naira over a 10-year period, with monthly payments beginning 60 days from today. Failure to make payments will result in further legal consequences." Regarding Mr. Okafor's request for when they saw him, both children ran to him, hugging him tightly. "We can stay with you, Papa," Obinna said, his voice filled with relief. "We're going home," Chukwuemeka confirmed, though he wasn't entirely sure where home was anymore. The penthouse? The service department? Some new place untainted by memories of betrayal? As they walked to the car, he saw Adana standing alone near the courthouse steps. Her family had left earlier, unable to watch the final humiliation. Her lawyer was on his phone, already moving on to the next case. She looked utterly isolated, destroyed by the consequences of her choices. Against his better judgment, Chukwuemeka approached her. His children watched, uncertain, but didn't stop him. "Adana," he said quietly. She looked up, mascara smeared, eyes red. "You won. Congratulations. Nobody won here. We both lost the life we'd planned. The difference is, I'm left with the children and the truth. You're left with regrets. I know. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I threw away." She looked past him to where Chukwuemeka and Obinna stood. Can I say goodbye to them? Just for today? I won't see them for 2 weeks, until the first supervised visit." Chukwuemeka considered refusing, asserting his power one final time. But he thought about Obinna's testimony. I just want everyone to stop fighting. These children had suffered enough from adult warfare. Make it quick, he said. And Adana? If you use this time to badmouth me or make them feel guilty, I'll document it and you'll lose even supervised visitation. Understood? She nodded, approaching her children tentatively. Chukwuemeka stiffened but allowed her mother to hug her. Obinna melted into the embrace, still young enough to need his mother despite everything. I love you both so much, Adana whispered, loud enough for Chukwuemeka to hear. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I lied about your father. I'm sorry I put you in the middle of grown-up problems. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to earn back your trust. I love you too, Mama, Obinna said, crying. Even though you hurt us. Chukwuemeka remained silent, but she didn't pull away from the embrace. That would have to be enough for now. As they finally separated and Chukwuemeka led his children to the car, Mama Okafor approached Adana. The two women who'd once been linked by marriage, who'd celebrated grandchildren together, who'd shared family holidays, now stood as adversaries. I do not forgive you for what you did to my son, Mama Okafor said, her voice hard. But I am a Christian woman, and I will pray for you. I will pray you find wisdom, genuine repentance, and peace. Not for your sake, for those children's sake. They need a mother who is healed and whole, not bitter and broken. Adana could only nod, too overwhelmed to speak. In the car, driving through Lagos traffic toward their uncertain future, Obinna asked the question that hung in the air, Papa, are you happy now? Is the fighting over? Chukwuemeka looked at his children in the rearview mirror, at his mother sitting quietly beside him, at the city sprawling outside the windows, beautiful, chaotic, indifferent to human drama. The legal fighting is over, he said carefully. The emotional healing is just beginning. For all of us. Did we do the right thing? Chukwuemeka asked. Choosing you over Mama? You chose honesty over lies. Truth over manipulation. That's always the right thing. But baby girl, choosing me doesn't mean you stop loving your mother. It just means you're establishing boundaries, demanding better behavior. That's healthy, not hateful. 3 months later, family counseling was revealing uncomfortable truths for everyone. In Dr. Folake Adeyemi's office in Lekki, the four of them, Chukwuemeka, Adana, Chukwuemeka, and Obinna, sat in a circle, slowly learning to communicate without weapons. Chukwuemeka, Dr. Adeyemi said during one session, you've spent months focused on Adana's betrayal. But have you examined your own contributions to the marriage's failure? I was working to support them, he said defensively. Yes. But you were also avoiding intimacy, avoiding difficult conversations about whether Adana was happy, avoiding the reality that your children were growing up without you. Your absence wasn't just physical, it was emotional. You sent money instead of presents, gifts instead of time, calls instead of commitment. The words stung because they were true. He'd hidden behind work, convinced himself that providing financially was enough, that his sacrifices were noble rather than convenient. And Adana, the therapist continued, you've blamed your affair on loneliness. But infidelity is a choice, not an inevitable response to absence. You could have communicated your needs, demanded changes, even filed for divorce if you were unhappy. Instead, you chose deception, betrayal, and manipulation. Why? Adana was quiet for a long moment. Because I wanted to punish him. For not being there. For making me feel unimportant. For choosing work over me. The affair wasn't about Tabena, it was about hurting Chukwu the way he'd hurt me. It was the first time she'd admitted the truth, that her infidelity had been revenge for perceived abandonment, not genuine love for another man. The honesty was painful but necessary. So you both hurt each other, Dr. Adeyemi observed. He hurt you through absence. You hurt him through betrayal. And your children paid the price for both. In the months that followed, a fragile new normal emerged. The children lived with Chukwuemeka in a new house in Banana Island, fresh start, no memories of betrayal. Adana moved to a modest apartment in Ikeja, working as a freelance marketing consultant, slowly rebuilding her life and reputation. She made her monthly payments toward the 43 million naira debt, never complaining, accepting the consequences of her actions. The supervised visits gradually became unsupervised as Adana proved she could interact with her children without manipulation. She apologized repeatedly, to them, to Chukwuemeka, to anyone who'd listen. Some forgave her. Many didn't. Lagos society had long memories, and the story of her infidelity and public disgrace remained gossip fodder. But slowly, incrementally, healing happened. Chukwuemeka's walls came down slightly, allowing her mother back in. Obinna's anxiety lessened as the fighting stopped. Chukwuemeka found peace not in revenge, but in watching his children thrive without the toxic environment they'd endured. 1 year after the court ruling, Chukwuemeka attended Kayamika's 18th birthday party, a small gathering in their new home. Adana was there too, the first time they'd been in the same space socially since the divorce. It was awkward, tense, but civil. As the party wound down, Adana approached him on the balcony overlooking Lagos's glittering skyline. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For not destroying me completely. You could have. You had the power, the money, the evidence. But you stopped short of total annihilation. You gave me supervised visits instead of nothing. You structured the debt payments so I could afford them. You didn't turn the children against me permanently. You left me room to rebuild." Chukwuemeka considered this. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for them. They needed to see that even in conflict, there can be limits. That revenge has boundaries. That parents can be civil even when they hate each other." "Do you still hate me?" He thought about it honestly. "No. I don't hate you, Adana. I don't love you either. You're just the mother of my children now. Someone I have to coexist with for their sake. The rest, the betrayal, the anger, the revenge, it's exhausting. I'm too tired to hate anymore." She nodded, accepting this truth. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Genuinely. I destroyed something beautiful because I was afraid and selfish. I'll regret it forever." "Then let that regret make you better. For Kayamika and Obinna. They deserve parents who are whole and healthy, not broken people dragging them through our drama." "Agreed," Adana said. Then, after a pause, "You're seeing someone, aren't you? I saw how that woman looked at you at the birthday party. The one from your company." Chukwuemeka didn't confirm or deny. His personal life was no longer Adana's business. But he didn't need to answer, his silence was confirmation enough. "Good," Adana said, surprising him. "You deserve happiness, Chukwu. Real happiness, not just revenge satisfaction. I hope she's good to you. I hope she appreciates what she has." As she walked away to say goodnight to their children, Chukwuemeka reflected on the long, painful journey from betrayal to this moment. The revenge had been necessary, not for cruelty's sake, but for justice, for accountability, for teaching his children that actions have consequences. But revenge hadn't healed him. Time had. Therapy had. Focusing on his children had. Building a new life had. The billionaire who'd returned from London and pretended to be homeless had learned something profound. You can destroy your enemies, reclaim what was stolen, win every legal battle, and still be empty inside. True victory wasn't in crushing Adana, it was in transcending the need to crush her. He'd started this journey wanting revenge. He was ending it wanting peace. And maybe, finally, he'd find it. Epilogue. 5 years later, Kayamika graduated from university with honors in business administration. Both her parents attended the ceremony, sitting separately but applauding together when her name was called. Obinna was thriving in secondary school, his anxiety managed, his trust in adults slowly restored. Chukwuemeka had indeed remarried, to Nkem, a fellow entrepreneur who understood the demands of business without enabling workaholism. They'd built something healthy, honest, equal. Adana had remained single, focusing on rebuilding her career and relationship with her children. The 43 million naira had been paid back in full, ahead of schedule. The legal battles were ancient history. The social media spectacle had faded into Lagos's endless cycle of new scandals. At Kayamika's graduation dinner, with both parents present along with Nkem and the extended families, Obinna raised a glass for a toast. "To imperfect parents trying their best," he said, his voice strong and sure. "To healing from hurt. To choosing truth over comfort. And to family, messy, complicated, but ultimately unbreakable." They drank to that, former spouses, new partners, children who'd survived their parents' war and emerged stronger. It wasn't the family they'd planned 20 years ago. But it was the family they'd built from the ruins of betrayal and revenge. And somehow, imperfectly, it worked. What did you think of this story? Did Chukwuemeka do the right thing? Could you forgive like Adana's children tried to? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping African relationship dramas. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next emotional story. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for staying until the end, we'll see you in the next one. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double check responses. Sonnet.